Here's why the turbo is not a direct bolt-on. See these 4 holes? They're larger than yours. So this is the turbine housing, this is the center section, and this is the compressor housing. This part is the actual turbo. The center section is where all the spinning bearings and the oil and coolant goes. So that part would be a bolt-on. And this part, it will bolt on, but you see this gap? I'll get you another one to compare. Okay, see this one here? This is stock configuration. The holes are smaller because they use the smaller studs. Here's mine, the holes are larger because I use the larger studs. You can also see how massively ported this thing is compared to the other one. Now here is my manifold. Here's the studs I used. They're huge. They use 19mm hex bolt. So here's a hex key bolt that is the exact same size as what the factory stud would be. So that, see, comparing it, it's slightly smaller. So if you bolted this turbo up to your factory manifold that doesn't have bigger studs like I have, it would have a gap. So that's why it's not a direct bolt up. So it would bolt up fine and probably be fine, but you'd have that gap. So this part would set on your manifold and you'd have to line it up perfectly and then torque those bolts down. Normally the stud would fit tightly in this hole and it would perfectly locate the turbine housing on top of the manifold. So that's what you'd be dealing with if you bought this. See, like this stock one? See, it fit this bolt, which is the exact same size as the factory stud, fits perfectly snug in there. So it really can't move around at all. So with this one, that's what you'd be dealing with. So there's what it would look like if it was setting on a factory stud. See that gap? So you would just have to perfectly line it up and then torque the nuts. Or you could take your manifold and drill it and machine it and put new studs in if you wanted to go that route. But it would work on a factory manifold. You just have a little bit of gap, and you'd have the potential for this whole turbine housing to shift around just a little bit, just because of that gap in there. Hopefully that explains why the turbo is not a bolt-on.